For Global Business Update, Michael Wilson joins us now from London. Good morning, Michael.
Morning. There are I say guardedly, positive noises coming out from the US debt ceiling discussions in Washington. And that's really helping markets around the world. Asia Pacific, no exception to that, slightly up this morning. But there is a general feeling of optimism that those discussions will be completed successfully by the deadline of June the 1st. More on that in a second. China's Tencent, it's showing that it's increasing it has increased its Q1 revenue by 11%. Now, what this seems to suggest, and I say seems to, is that ad sales are up too, and there's a bit of a recovery and a bit of a rise in domestic consumption in China, which is generally speaking quite good for that kind of reason. The other side of the coin is the statewide TikTok ban. TikTok owned by ByteDance and so on. Only remember that the United States is rather energized about whether or not people's US citizens' private details are being supplied to the Chinese government. This is a statewide ban in Montana. Now, in the US, there are 150 million TikTok users. TikTok are going to appeal against this statewide ban in Montana, basically saying that people who use TikTok don't want it, and also it erodes free speech. We'll see how that goes. Singapore, not massively impressive PMI manufacturing figures out from them. This is the other side of things. It's rather a strange picture. We expect Singapore to do reasonably well, but as I say, Q2 may even contract. Maybe even their economy will contract. But they are very much dependent upon China's economy succeeding. So that shows you really how the world is enjoined. Doesn't really matter what nationalities actually think. The whole global system is enjoined together. As far as the US is concerned, little progress, little change as far as stock futures go. Traders are convinced that there is some sort of debt ceiling deal coming forward. Discussions, according to Joe Biden, the US president, are moving forward. He says he's confident. The deadline is still June the 1st, and nobody is in any doubt about the problems that no deal would from which no deal, the problems that would ensue from no deal, and that's tending to bang heads together. Twitter, since Elon Musk has taken over, its top users have declined their usage of Twitter by 25%. And US adults are saying they're taking a break from Twitter as well. They're not quite sure where it's going. So a further challenge for Linda Yaccarino, the ex-television ad mogul, who's taken over as CEO at Twitter and is trying to repair will have to repair some of the ad damage to the company. Microsoft Satya Nadella. Now, he's an interesting chap, relatively new to all. He's been interviewed, been talking about AI. He's not against it. I mean, why would he be working for Microsoft? But what he's saying is that human beings will still have to regulate it in some way or other. They need to take advantage of its undoubted advantages, but at the same time they need to protect themselves as well. Now, it's all right him saying these kind of things, but I would remind you that part of this red hot battle now, as the United States described it, about AI is between Microsoft and Google, plus other operators as well. And even somebody like Bill Gates, who said that AI will change the world. Everybody's relatively cautious about the kind of regulation that needs to be brought in. UBS. Now, UBS is blaming the Swiss authorities, which over that weekend, if you remember, that sort of banged UBS into saving Credit Suisse. It's saying that it didn't have time to do due diligence, and thus it will take a $17 billion hit on that enjoining, I was going to say purchase, it's not, it's an enjoining together of Credit Suisse, and I suspect that will be the start of their problems when two different kind of cultures are banged together. And don't forget the bond shareholders as well, who are still continuing their action against the Swiss authorities. They got some encouraging news yesterday, which a judge opened some of the documents that the FinMin, the financial ministry in Switzerland, had not been revealing to them. They feel as though this is the way forward, but that legal action is still continuing. Okay, let's turn our attention to the United Kingdom. Those three former business secretaries have been criticising Rishi Sunak. There they are. Greg Clark, Lord Mandelson, Sir Vince Cable. Right, no industrial strategy. For his part, Sunak, of course, is part of the G7, which is meeting in Hiroshima, is meeting the Japanese as he's doing a defence thing, but he's also doing a business thing as well, and he wants to establish a partnership with semiconductors. He's talking to businesses in Japan today. The suspicion is there will be research and development cooperation and also an exchange of skills. We talked briefly yesterday about the troubled car industry in the UK, in particular Stellantis, which owns Vauxhall. It had been in touch with the government saying that they need to do a kind of deal. It runs much deeper than that. Now German car manufacturers have become involved. The rule is that unless 45% of a car's components are made either within the EU or the UK, then they'll be subject to a tariff of 10%. Now, clearly, a lot of components in cars are not made within the EU and the UK, and thus manufacturers like Stellantis are saying it's about time you did something about that. Here's an interesting one. The Governor of the Bank of England, Andrew Bailey. Now, I have my own views about whether I think the Bank of England is doing a decent job or not. I won't necessarily share them with you. All I'll do is reflect what the markets are saying. And the markets are recognising that for the very first time, Andrew Bailey is now saying there is a wage price spiral in the UK, i.e. inflation is rising, thus people are therefore asking for larger wage increases, which are affordable or not, depending on which side of the fence you actually come from. He's also talking about something in which he describes as second round inflation, which is that this is all due to energy costs and all due to things, he says, beyond the Bank of England's control. But he also said, and this is also important too, he said he would raise interest rates in the UK to whatever level in order to defeat inflation. It's expected that the headline inflation figures will fall when they're announced next week to below double digits, but whether or not that takes care of the whole problem, well, that's for people with bigger brains than me to work out. The cost of living is also having its effect on consumers of broadband in the UK. 1 million people have binned broadband. They've cancelled their broadband subscriptions because they say they can't afford it. What they are unaware of is that there is social help for this, and the take-up is very, very low indeed, according to Ofcom. So there is help if people in the UK would only take control of it. And finally, I'm going to give you some oil news this morning. Despite the fact that the market is very volatile, I have to tell you that Goldman Sachs is still sticking to its forecast of $100 barrel of oil by the end of the year, and particularly a big crimp on supply in 2024. We'll see whether or not they're right. That is the global view this morning.
Well, thank you very much, Michael. Now for business updates across the African continent, Rotus Udiri joins us. Good morning, Rotus.
Good morning, Doctor.
And congratulations.
Congratulations to you too. Well done to the station. Well done to everybody at the Rise TV. Congrats on the awards. We work hard. We work very hard. So congratulations. Well done. I just want to jump on the Microsoft news. Have either of you used Bing with AI? It is like having a personal assistant. So we're going to get into mining in a second, but I was looking up Ghana's mining revenues, and this thing starts talking to me, saying, it's conversational. So the race for AI, really, really impressive. It's available everywhere, so anybody can you can try ChatGPT, you can try Bing. Just search for something, and the moment it just starts talking to you in a conversational tone.
AI now are presenting programs.
Yeah, exactly.
AI newscasters.
we might be in trouble.
We'll be out of job.
Exactly.
One of these days.
It's incredible stuff. But mining, NATI, the Nigeria's Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative, putting out a report on Nigeria's mining sector, putting some numbers to it. Basically that the sector, as we know, has been underperforming. If you look at the figure they put up, over the last 13 years, solid mineral earnings for Nigeria, $1.4 billion. And it's a really low number. And for comparative terms, if you look at the breakdown, basically, that comes out to about $107 million per year. I mean, there are companies that make more money than that in a quarter, right? If you look at Ghana, we don't need to go to Australia. We don't need to go to China. We don't need to go anywhere else. Just stick 45 minutes away by flight. Ghana's 2019, this is what I was looking up when the AI started talking to me and giving me these numbers. Ghana's 2019 solid mineral earnings was 6.6 billion. It was, I think, a 15% jump from 2018 when it was 5 billion. That is just in 1 year. Now, if you look at the Q4 sector growth drivers for Ghana, ICT was tops, 20% growth, public administration and defense. Look at mining 13%. I mean, Ghana earns a lot, particularly for gold, earns a lot of money. So you can see the potential there. Nigeria is unfortunately lagging behind. So NATI says a lot needs to be done. What are the problems? There's a lot of smuggling that's going on in the mining sector. What about our security services? Are we able to stop that? You know, that is one of the biggest issues there. So it's underdeveloped, not enough capital going into the sector. I mean, there should be, private sector players wanting to just jump into Nigeria's mining sector to develop, but the environment is just not conducive for them, so they are staying away. So, the numbers are really, really paltry. That's mining. We go into agriculture, livestock. So I was reading an interview that the CEO of Nigeria's Agricultural Science Institute of Nigeria's Science Institute, of Animal Science Institute, the CEO, Mr. Eustace Iyayi, he granted a interview to Nairametrics and was saying that his valuation, just livestock alone for Nigeria, is worth up to 30 trillion naira. Now, if you think about Nigeria's agricultural sector, the subsectors, crop production, livestock, fishery, and forestry. 90% of it, as far as what is contributed to GDP, is in crop production. So we've got a lot of potential. I mean, again, when we talk of Nigeria, it's potential in mining, potential in agriculture. But particularly for livestock, it's the issues, the grazing issues, the migration, the cows do a lot of cardio. They walk all over the country and lose a lot of weight. So they are undersized cows compared to the cows in other countries. So crossbreeding has to happen. If you look at what this means for dairy and how you need milk, not only for babies, for adults, right? Our milk imports $1.5 billion a year. So 60% of consumption is imported because we are not producing as much. So it's linked. If you can increase, your livestock production, there was talk of this administration that's on its way out was talking about ranches and so on in different parts. I know that's been stalled. So how that works out, but milk production for nutritional basis, for exports and so on and so forth, that's underperforming. So that's Nigeria. We go to Ghana, and as of just yesterday, Kristalina Georgieva of the IMF announcing that finally, after we've been on this matter now for over a year or so, or 8 or 9 months, Ghana has been approved for the $3 billion loan from the IMF. So here she is.
A strong program of reforms to revitalize growth and reduce the country's debt burden. I'm very pleased that the IMF Executive Board has approved today a 3-year, $3 billion support for this program. We are proud to be partners with Ghana in addressing the difficult economic and financial conditions the country is facing. Today's decision is also a major milestone for the G20 Common Framework. The commitment by the Official Creditors Committee to help make Ghana's debt sustainable was essential for the approval of the funds program, and it signals important progress in the G20 Common Framework. The decision our board has taken is the beginning of the work we will do together with the authorities of Ghana for the implementation of the program for the benefit of the people of Ghana.
All right, so $600 million dollars is the first installment, and then the rest of it. But then Ghana has, they've acquiesced, they've done the reforms and necessary moves and so on. The question, of course, is whether that $3 billion is enough. But, Ghana's inflation is decelerating. You saw those metrics for their Q4 GDP. I mean, the country is moving along. And importantly, anyway, I'll talk about the exchange rates tomorrow. A single, unified, transparent exchange rate is part of why Ghana is okay. South Africa, G7 is taking place in Japan. South Africa is missing. Now the South Africans are saying, oh, there's no problems. The African Union is representing the continent at the G7. But you know what's been going on with the United States accusing South Africa of supplying arms to Russia. South Africa has a relationship with Russia. That one, everybody knows about it. So you've got, as far as their current headaches, as if they don't have enough headaches, clash with America, electricity collapse, ESCOM, that's 2% unemployment, one of the highest in the world, and anemic economic growth.
We're told there's no time for...
Oh, lots to happen today.
But, it looks like the Japanese, they don't have to invite South Africa. It's tit for tat.
Indeed.
Diplomacy is reciprocal. When they had the TICAD in, is it Tunisia, last year, South Africa did not go. So... It's reciprocal. And then you can be friendly with Vladimir Putin and imagine that you will be invited to a decent company. But President Ramaphosa, who has attended the last 4 G7 meetings, says, well, he's not disappointed, he's not bothered. Yeah. Well, we hope so. Thank you very much, Rotus.
Thank you so much.